And everyone, welcome to the Paranormies Present this Sunday afternoon live. I'm Johnny Monoxide, and this afternoon, actually, I'm joined by Reinhardt. What's up, dude?
What's going on? Glad to be here.
Yes, good to see you this afternoon. Also joining me, Hollis. Hello.
Hey.
What's happening, man? And a special guest, the creator and author of the theory and the book by the same name, The Nephilim Look Like Clowns, Mr. Paul Stobbs. Hello, sir.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Excellent. Good to have you on, man.
Oh, good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on. We've talked about this before on our show a few times. Actually, consumed just about all of your video content on the subject and everybody else's. You spurred like an entire genre, subgenre of this culture that we're into, this conspiracy world that we live in.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? I did not know it would end up like that when I first started making my early videos on this in 2016. I mean, I consider like the first 10 episodes of my series, like the ramblings of the insane. I was just basically screaming into the ether about all these crazy things I'm finding and just jabbering on. They're not very good, to be honest. I don't really like them, but as 8 years went by, the series got into like the 47 episodes or something silly, and I've just published the first book on the thing. A year ago, sold about 4,000 copies, and I'm writing the second book now. It got out of hand. That's probably a good way to describe this. It got really out of hand, but I wouldn't go back. I could tell you that much.
No, definitely not. It's an extremely interesting subject, and the amount of people that have gotten into it since on the conspiracy side and like the normie side, because you have I don't consider Joe Rogan conspiracy. Like,
no,
I don't care what he makes.
I call him conspiratainment more than anything, you know.
Yeah, he's definitely conspiratainment. That's cool. Even, and it's only occasionally that he's even conspiratainment anymore. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Because he'll have on like the dinosaur guy to refute Eric Dubay's, dinosaurs never existed video or whatever. Or he'll have, he doesn't have Eddie Bravo on anymore because Eddie Bravo is a flat earther. But he'll occasionally like have conspiratorial type stuff. Most of his conspiracy stuff is like very normie-ish, even so. But except for his DMT and the Jesters mechanical elf stuff.
I actually, funnily enough, I kind of, I would say I became friends with, more of an acquaintance with Eddie Bravo, and he wanted me to, one of his friends kind of introduced my work on the Millennial Kingdom of Christ stuff, and the little season research I've done. Kind of another topic I do on my channel, and he ended up having me on his podcast, and I think I blew his mind a little bit. And then next thing I know, he's messaging me like, "Bro, you got to send me like a short clip explaining the little season. I'm seeing Joe tomorrow, and I want to show him." And I'm like, "Just find something, whatever." And he said, "Okay, perfect. I found a video." Kind of did it all on his own and went off. And the next thing you know, a week later, he's showing one of my videos to Joe Rogan on his fight podcast. And there's me rambling away about something insane on Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? I have no idea how that's one chain of event happened there. But what I'm trying to say is he still gets Eddie Bravo on, but I don't think he takes him very seriously from what I gathered, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess the last time I saw Eddie on the show was the Alex Jones. It was before they moved into the new studios. You remember that one where they all got drunk and smoked weed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a 4-hour
Didn't they start
episode.
wrestling or something?
They started arguing, and then there was and Alex was
Jones is like screaming.
yeah,
Classic.
Don't get me started about NASA.
Yeah. Well, Eddie Bravo, all due respect to him, he's a little bit like he's a tangential to Alex Jones on Joe Rogan, probably, because he's very exuberant for sure. So he's not always the best representation of a side of the story.
No, he's a nice guy though. Really nice guy from what I gathered. Like, I've had a few conversations with him, and he's certainly passionate. I'll give him that.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. I love Eddie Bravo. I'm not taking anything away from him. I would definitely not want to fight the man. So
no,
right.
That's true.
So I love Eddie Bravo, but and I love the fact that he's that he's the flat Earth guy too, because it's like, what are you gonna do? Kind of kick. I have had my life threatened physically. Like I've had physical violence threatened on me because I don't believe the Earth is a spinning space testicle. Right. I work in construction, and some of these people are rather rough and brusque. Right. So, but like, I'd like to see somebody try that shit with Eddie Bravo. Get twisted into a pretzel. You know?
That's true.
Right. So when you first started getting into this, now I love that the intro in your book said that you dedicated it to your wife, who had to listen to more. Hold on, I have it right here. Who had to listen to her husband talk about clowns more than anyone should legally have to.
Yeah, God bless her.
Yes, but like when you first started this, like who was the first person you told? Was it your wife or was it?
Oh, I was a lonely, crazy, isolated, still living in my parents' house, conspiracy theorist when I came up with this nonsense. I'll tell you the truth. You know, like I started my YouTube channel in 2014 as kind of like a leftover from my university project, because I did fine art at university, and conspiracies kind of became my subject matter for all the things I was making, and I ended up making a channel as the final piece, you know, to finish off my degree. And I kind of had this thing, no direction, had no idea what I was doing in my life or anything at all, but all I knew is that I was kind of knee deep in conspiracy and totally lost my mind, you know what I mean? Because it's scary when you first learn all these things. Yeah, and I was at that point, I was only young, I was about 20, I would have been 20, what was that, 23, 24, something like this. And I'd kind of been swimming heavily into the biblical perspective as well, coming out of the Eastern psychedelic philosophy type realm, you know. And I gave myself over to Christ in March 2014, and I went full swing into this channel, really getting into the biblical angle of conspiracy. And that one thing led to another, and then in 2016, after kind of getting a really solid grasp, after like 6 years worth of research on the occult and symbolism and biblical history and the Nephilim and demonology and spiritual warfare, all these things, everything kind of clicked into place when the 2016 clown sightings happened. And I had many experiences leading up to that point, which maybe we can get into, but I kind of went on a hunch that something to do with clowns and demons is a connection here. And when I started pulling at that thread, like I said, the first thing I did was make a video kind of explaining my basic premise, you know, like, listen up, guys, I've got this idea. Just bear with me, you know. And the first video, like I said, is the ramblings of the insane. It really is. Like, I barely recognize the guy, you know, and I didn't tell anybody because I was working in a supermarket at the time, you know, trying to pay off student debts and all these type of things, and put my art degree to good use, as you tend to do, you know. And I kind of just kept my head down, you know, for a long time. And then in 2018, after like 2 years of really going with this idea, and I think I was like 18 episodes into the series by this point, kind of fleshing the idea out, my workplace found the channel and kind of confronted me about it. My boss came to me, and by this point I'd been promoted up to manager, you know. And they were like, listen, Paul, you can't be a manager and have this YouTube channel. You need to make a choice. Like, you can either step down to store assistant, or you find another job, basically. Yeah. I was like, are you joking? Yeah. What am I supposed to do? I'm in this situation because I kind of been working at this channel in my heart and soul, you know, in my spare time, quietly in the shadows behind the scenes, while living a normie life on the front, you know, trying to blend in and not really keep my head above. But this moment happened.
Was it a big chain that you were working for, and it was like corporate policy? It was like,
yeah, it's Aldi. You have Aldi in America?
Oh yeah, we have Aldi. I love Aldi.
Yeah. It was Aldi. I was a deputy store manager at Aldi. And I only just got that position. And in a moment of weakness, I did capitulate. It's not my proudest moment. And I just got rid of the channel. And I know. And again, I was young, you know, it's one of these things that you just do. I was scared, you know, I didn't know what to do. I was confronted, and
I get it.
I kind of,
understandable.
I kind of, you know, got rid of the channel, and the series, everything just disappeared. And that was it. You know, and then from 2018 to 2023, I just was a store manager. And then things happened. I got sick of it. I just got sick of being an Aldi manager. I am not a manager of a supermarket. I am a conspiracy theorist. That is who I am, you know. So I couldn't live a lie.
Well put.
I couldn't live a lie any longer, and I quit. And I started a wedding photography business with my wife. We went solo. We just went for it, self-employed. It did good in the first year, failed the second year, but by that point, I'd already restarted the channel, and it was becoming a good earner for me. And I was already like an extra like 20 episodes into the series by that point, and I kind of just switched to being a full-time author, YouTuber, all that kind of thing, and it's just been going from strength to strength since then. So I got very lucky, you know. I'm blessed, truly blessed to be where I am. And those 5 years I had off, you know, that's where I suppose in a way it was good for me, because I kind of calmed down a lot. I was a very angry conspiracy theorist prior to having that break, you know. I was very
that happens occasionally.
I was enemies with everybody in the world, because I was perhaps making enemies out of the wrong people as well. And you just, you know, you just fall into pitfalls and divisions quite easily when you start researching how horrible everything is, you know. And I said that 5 years really gave me perspective. It gave me time to be a manager, you know, and train. And
you were a manager through COVID?
Oh yeah, all that. So I saw it all. I saw the worst of the worst, man. My grandfather actually died through that, and I was at work like the next week being shouted at by people. You know? I was like, I can't deal with it.
You're trying to kill my grandfather.
It's like my grandfather just died. You know. Oh yeah,
right,
obviously
right.
It went down as COVID naturally, but really it was. He got it when he was in hospital supposedly, and I don't believe a single thing of it, to be honest. But it was it was pneumonia that got him really in the end, and he was old. He was 89. You know, he was old. He lived a good life. He wasn't.
He was 89 years old and he had pneumonia, which is that's a very standard thing for 89-year-old.
Exactly. He went in with dehydration, I think, and then he caught pneumonia and died in hospital. It's just one of those things. And it wasn't a big.
Sure.
Again, I was just going through it at that time, watching people steal toilet roll by the dozens, and like, you know. Being obsessed with pasta and becoming like mini Hitlers, thinking they have authority over the people, all the rest of it, you know. Honestly, it was a really bad. Seeing that definitely put a pep in my step to get back into the game. I'll say that much, because you can't unsee the truth once you see the truth. I understood about the control mechanisms in the world, the agendas at play, and seeing it kind of just happen before my very eyes made me think like, wow, you know, I've got to do something. But on topic to like this thing, while I was not making videos, Conspiracy RUs kind of picked up my work in like 2020, I think, like a good 2-3 years, like 2-3 years after I even talked about it. And he said, oh, there was this guy who used to be on YouTube who kind of made this series about the Nephilim looking like clowns, and he kind of said all this stuff, and he kind of basically did a very good job at summarizing my work. He did a really good job, you know.
Yes,
and he kind of brought it to the people and said, you know, this guy's channel's not around anymore, but this is what he had. And I was like gobsmacked. I was like, look at all these people, they still remember, you know, and they really like the work and the ideas, and he kind of, by that point I felt brave enough to kind of reveal my videos again. I didn't delete them, I just made them all hidden, you know. And I let the series in the public again, and it started to build traction again. So that was a lot of inspiration to come back, you know, and think I can do this. I don't need this company who's draining my soul every second of my life, you know, where I'm faking being something I'm not. And like I said, it went from strength to strength there, and other people started picking up on the topic, and I just came back in 2023 at full swing, and here we are. Yeah.
Nice.
I remember when it kind of, or I got into the Conspiracy RS channel, and I remember him saying that. I was like, this guy used to make this great content, and then it just he just kind of disappeared. And then that's how I got onto the topic. And I remember I thought it was even maybe before 2016 that these weird clown sightings started popping up all over the place. So I don't know, did you ever get to the bottom of what was going on with that? Or like, is there anything to get to the bottom of even?
Well, there's a few school of thoughts on that. The first thing most people think is it was a stunt to promote it really being released. You know, like it was mainly just there to get people thinking about clowns, scary clowns again, just before the film was released. It could be that. That's kind of the same excuse they used in the 80s in Boston when there was mass clown sightings as well. Trying to say it was Stephen King trying to promote his new book, that was just being released around the same time. But the book was actually released about 2-3 years prior to these sightings in Boston, where people dressed as clowns were pulling up in vans and trying to abduct children. and it caused mass hysteria and people calling the police nonstop, and it was a really big problem, and then it kind of spread across America in the 80s. So this isn't actually the first time it happened, I'd found out. Mark from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy told me that story, and he gave me the documents for it, and yeah, it turns out it's already actually happened.
That's a great name for a channel, by the way.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Mark Steves, Mystic Mark. He's a nice guy as well. I definitely, if you haven't talked to him before, I definitely recommend it. But
speaking of talking to people, have you spoken to the conspiracy RS guy?
We've had a back and forth of emails. He's quite a private guy, to be honest.
Yeah,
he keeps
a lot of them are.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I thanked him in my book at the end. He's got a special thank you at the end and everything. And he said, "Listen, man, I want to change my direction on my channel anyway. People want me to make clown content, but I'm more like the old world content type of guy." He says, "So you just take it over and carry on." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, I will." Like I intend to type of thing. So
I mean,
it's one of those,
He's like, "Hey, if you don't mind taking your content."
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that.
I'm just being.
I just said to him, "I'm going to carry on doing my thing." He said, "Yeah, man, that's cool. I'm going to do my thing as well." And I was like, "Okay, fair enough."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That is
He's got a
great.
great little channel. I like his videos. His videos are great.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but he did do the thing. He did garner a lot of interest in this, and it's not just him, because I've seen lots of other channels talk about this too.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a few. I think Mind Unveiled covered it like a year ago, talking about birds
Mind
or something,
Unveiled.
and linking them to bird people or something. Like I don't know what his take was exactly, but
He's a very interesting dude. He's got a lot of very, very different types of thoughts.
yeah, he does. But again, it brought a lot of attention, which again is always good for me. A lot of people still seem to think I stole his work. I get a lot of those type of comments.
Oh my gosh, not
geez.
the old
See,
stealing of intellectual
that's how
property.
we found your stuff anyway, was through Conspiracy RS, and I remember him saying, talking about you. So it's like, all right, I remember suggesting the videos to Johnny, because we did do an episode. I think it was 2021. I was still living in Washington at the time, and I remember just thinking, where is this guy? Is he still working on this stuff?
I was, yeah.
Well, because your
So it's
stuff,
good.
because so you base your stuff biblically, and you reference Gary Wayne quite a bit.
Yes.
We've had Gary Wayne on the show a couple times already, so we're kind of friends with Gary. Just but Reinhardt is like our resident Nephilim expert. So
Cool.
like
I
this
don't know.
whole
I call myself an expert, but
well, he's the Nephilim guy. It's literally his nickname. He's the Nephilim guy, whatever, expert guy, whatever. But yeah, this is like when this first came down, this was like I was like, oh yeah, this is right up Reinhardt's alley, the whole Nephilim and the clowns, and all of this stuff completely makes sense when you look at all of the archetypes that have survived through the ages, through the different societies, through the different civilizations, totally unconnected civilizations, which is another thing that people always, fail to realize, that there's very similar things happening all over this place at different time periods, but they're exactly the same with no connection between the places, other than it would have to be some sort of either extra dimensional or extra terrestrial, I hate using that word, terrestrial type of connection between them.
Yeah, not being born of Earth like we are. That extraterrestrial definition still does make sense.
Yeah, I know, but when you say that,
more terrestrial. That's what it basically means, isn't it?
What's that term?
you
Ultra terrestrial. I've heard that one before.
Oh god, aren't those from the Ancient Aliens types though?
What was it? There's one channel on YouTube. He did a thing on ultra terrestrials, which is like alien type thing. I know it's
is that like terrestrial extreme?
Yeah,
super terrestrial
with no E on the beginning. Yeah,
everything like, it's got a big X in the middle of it.
Right.
Yeah, well, like I said, this work, I really didn't think it would end up where it went in the end. And Gary Wayne, I've had him on my channel a couple of times prior to this as well. When I was even just testing the theory in 2016, I was kind of talking to him about it, like, what did it look like from your perspective? What did you see? And, he gave his descriptions: white skin, red hair, gold hair, glowing blue eyes, radiating color, and being very, colorful themselves and kind of like glowing in some sense, and generally tall, very not human-like, creepy looking things like dragon human hybrid looking stuff, elongated skulls, like the eyes are kind of like slit a bit more and pulled back, and very sharp angular features on the jaw lines, and very much like a viper or a serpent, all this type of stuff. And yeah, my imagination was firing all over the place when he was explaining all this to me back in the day, And I've had him on the channel since then, more recently. I think it was like 5 years apart with our interviews. And he was a huge inspiration for me. Definitely gave me like the alternative Christian contrarian viewpoint on the Nephilim, And yeah, I reference him a lot in the first book because I think he laid down the biblical history perfectly. I think he's nailed it.
Probably he's the authority on that, I think.
Absolutely. And there's other people like Michael Heiser as well. And there's people who've done great work throughout the time, But he really, I basically did like an abridged summary of his version of biblical history in the first 10 chapters of my book, kind of explaining where Nephilim come from for people who don't really know. So I kind of give like a very good summary as best I could. And I reference his work a lot, but I also pulled from the original text as well and did what I could to kind of show where he got even his sources from. And then the second half of my book is just strictly about where we get the clown from, cryptids, the history of Freemasonry, secret societies, and the links to circuses and clowns as well. And then into the psychedelic stuff at the end, DMT, Jesters, all that kind of stuff. And then kind of hinting at what the second book will be about, which is about the, I talk about sacred clowns in America, and the Heyoka, for example. And then that's kind of hinting at the second book is about all the other cultures across the earth who do the same thing. And how you said they all seemingly do the exact same thing, but have no connection to one another. And it's kind of, it's because they had a shared experience in their cultural historical past. And the shared experience is giants walking around eating people that look like absolute clown monsters. And that's, you don't really forget that, unfortunately,
It's like Attack on Titan.
It really is. Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
And the Titans do kind of look just like the way the Nephilim have been described.
Yeah.
It's strange how anime, does that all the time.
Yeah, Attack on Titan, Full Metal Alchemist. I mean,
anime is cartoon disclosure.
Something like that. Yeah, they always definitely go for the big, wide, evil, grinning looking clown thing every time they go for the demonic aesthetic. Every time. But you'll find it's actually, even in Western media, they've been doing it for a long time. It's one of those hidden symbols you kind of, once you see it, you realize it's always been there. They've been doing it for a long time, and it's like the whole 9/11 thing. You realize it was everywhere before the event happened. Yeah. It's one of those situations. Like once the
predictive programming that nobody sees until after the event, and they go back and look, and there it is. Yeah.
Because that's what the clown is. I think people maybe get a bit confused about what my work is actually about because they hear the Nephilim look like clowns. That's ridiculous. The Bible didn't talk about that. It's kind of
the Bible only talks about Nephilim for about 2 words.
Yes, and then it kind of fleshes them out a little bit in like Deuteronomy and Numbers, and talking
just about a little bit.
And you got all the giant tribes.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not really bothered about aesthetics. It's more bothered about actions in the Bible. It doesn't care about what they look like, So you have to go outside of the biblical text, go to extra biblical texts like the Book of Giants or the Book of Jasher or the Book of Enoch, which includes the Book of Noah, and you can get inferences where they kind of reference back to the Nephilim and how they looked. And I've put all them in my book, as much evidence as I can from the extra biblical sources and keeping it in house. And then I went outside of the Bible, and you realize every other culture knows what these things look like. They make it very clear what they look like. They're obsessed with what they looked like. They dress like them all the time to channel their spirits,
They've cargo culted. Right. Yeah, they've cargo culted the Nephilim's aesthetic.
Exactly. So you can just quickly look outside your Bible and find corroborating evidence for the Bible, and you get a lot more details from all these other cultures of what the aesthetics were,
I find that's a problem with a lot of Christians is nobody wants to look outside the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah, everybody's terrified,
right?
But I mean, there are guys like Mike Heiser or another guy, Derek Gilbert, has done a really good job anthropologically looking at like the Near East, and then you go into somebody like Andrew Collins who wrote From the Ashes of Angels, and he's connected, I mean, throughout Iran up to Armenia, up into Africa, or down into Africa, I guess you'd say, and looking at these cultures and their representations. Like, Paul, I've got your stream up right now, and just looking at the slideshow of everything, the masked cultures, the tribal cultures, their shamanistic dress and everything, it corroborates what these beings would have looked like and are described and carved in some of the most, what we know as ancient places.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's done in many different ways depending on the culture themselves. So some cultures are more veneration and channeling of the spirits through wearing things like costumes and masks, which stereotypically we would say have clownish features from a Western perspective. And then some other cultures are what we call apotropaic, which means they're actually wearing these costumes to try and scare away evil spirits, and keep the place clear of evil by dressing like evil. Right. And my argument is, and always has been, they can't both be right. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so either you dress like the demon to channel demons, which is the 95% majority tactic used by all these ancestor spirit worship cultures, or you dress like a demon to scare it away. Now, I don't think thousands of year-old ancient primordial gods are scared of people dressing like them. I really don't think they've bothered.
I don't think that works like that.
I think being ignorant of the spiritual laws doesn't make you immune to them. And if you dress like a demon, a spirit in the spirit realm, and try and mirror it, then you create a channel, whether you know it or not. And you're willingly letting them into your body by mimicking them and mirroring them and creating an image of something that is in the spirit realm, quite literally. And that's the game. That's what really this is all about. And that's what the costume of a Western clown is. It's a copy of all these other cultures. It's kind of like an amalgam caricature of many features from many different cultures' versions of the Nephilim. And we've created a costume in the West we call a clown. Well, when I say we, I quite literally mean secret societies did this on purpose. And they use the costume for the exact same reasons all these other cultures do, to channel spirits. And it's just hidden in the West. It's occulted in the West. You're not supposed to know. The profane masses aren't supposed to know this, because in the West, we're highly Christianized as a nation. And the Nephilim have very little power here amongst Christian people, because a Christian at any moment can take his authority in Christ and cast these things out, and so they have to remain in the shadows behind layers of nuance and hidden symbolism, and that's the whole point of secret societies. Right. You're not supposed to know that we're Luciferians who work with demons. So the tools they use, just like these other cultures do, like a costume of a clown, to us is just something silly and fun for the kids, but to the initiated, it's a very serious, powerful tool, and again, it's identical to what these other cultures do, and almost quite literally identical. I mean, if you look at the Wanginas of the Kimberley region of Australia, and these are the offspring of the rainbow serpents who taught mankind loads of dodgy stuff about how to build civilization from their mythos. Well, that's literally the offspring of the fallen angel seraphim serpent watchers who had offspring who ruled over mankind and taught them all sorts of terrible things, which is what the Nephilim did. So that's their version of Nephilim. They call them the Wanginas. They have a reverence for them. They think they are protector gods of some kind who control the weather and bring rain. But you look at an image of these things, which are painted on rock carvings that are like thousands of years old, they literally look like a red-haired, wigged, white-faced clown with a frill around the neck and multicolored patchwork clothing. Like, I'm not even joking. It's a carbon copy of what we call a clown. And you can't make this stuff up, is what I'm saying. You really can't make it up.
If I can throw a curveball here. So when we talk about like fallen angel technology and stuff, like we look around us and we see how we're communicating and everything. And I don't think it's an accident that all of our devices are black mirrors, for example. So it's like, what's your take on kind of like Ludditism or something? Because my ancestry is Mennonite. And just with every passing month now, I'm like, yeah, they were pretty on point. Maybe I can jump back in the game there or something.
Well, look, I think we as conspiracy theorists should always have a healthy skepticism towards technology. I think we should. Because we know our battle isn't really with physical things. It's a spiritual battle behind the scenes. Whatever flavor you want to describe that as, if you want to call it the Archons or the Luciferian Watchers or whatever you want to call them, whatever your bent is in terms of, we know there's a malevolent force working against us behind the scenes, shall we say, and I think technology is a perfect tool to, kind of entrap us and lead us down bad paths and agendas. And you're right about the black mirror, scrying mirror situation. I talk about this quite a lot on my own channel. I literally just talked about it on my new channel, Understanding Creativity. How the black mirror is quite literally a tool for communicating with spirits in the spirit realm. It's used as a reflector, but it's also actually used as a tool in art to draw, because makes colors and lines more high contrast. It makes it easier to copy something. So they use it for that as well. But yeah, witchcraft, in terms of witchcraft, they definitely use it for channeling entities, and we carry it all around in our own pockets. So I'm with you. I mean, it's an ambivalence. What am I supposed to do? Like, I kind of need it to survive in this world because everything's online. But at the same time, I know it's kind of probably a prison and a trap. And what do we do? Because what do you really do? I don't have the solution to that, unfortunately. But
we can't be like the Amish and carry a Mennonite around with us to hold our phone for us.
Maybe we should be. I don't know.
Isn't that how they do it? Isn't that how they do it? The Amish have the Mennonites to do the technological stuff.
I don't know.
I think they're pretty segmented. They're like different sects. It would be a Baptist employing a Mormon for something.
Okay, so I've heard about it in Pennsylvania where like they'll have one guy there who has like a cell phone or whatever, and he's not Amish, but the rest of them, I don't know, whatever. It's very strange. It's very strange. That whole society
sounds like a loophole to me. That they're
of course, very Talmudic.
I hope you know what I'm thinking with the
It's very Talmudic. There's there's a certain group of people we're given 10 sentences to obey. That's it. 10 sentences, right? These people wrote 26 books of loopholes called the Talmud. Called the Talmud. Literally, what if on like a Thursday at 2:30 in the afternoon, like literally, that's like the book, like every single all you had to do was just not do these 10 things, you guys. Anyway.
It's like corporate law or something. Anyway.
All these same people that do all these same sort of things. Anyway. Back to the Nephilim and the clowns.
Sure.
Thing.
You've got a great slideshow on the live stream here, by the way.
Yes, the live stream. That's what I'm looking at right now. Is the picture of the gorillas.
Yeah,
guy.
well, I have like 800 images here alone, but there's more. It's just this is what OBS allowed me to get. As much as
there's so many. There's so many. Okay, real quick, you guys, because I just noticed that there are like 3 times as many people watching on his YouTube as are watching on ours. So I don't know if your channel knows who we are.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I mean, you guys have been in the game for years, you know?
I'm joking. Yes, I know. No.
Somebody said a Shabbos Mennonite.
Yes, Shabbos Mennonites. That's probably a real thing.
Well, no, the Mennonites would have a Shabbos something, like somebody to hold the phone. Anyway.
A Shabbos,
a Shabbonite. A Shabbonite.
A shabby Shabbonite.
Oh, boy. But, okay, so hold on a second. Paul, you said something in one of your, I don't remember which one it was, but it was talking about Ronald McDonald and the clowns that have the slits above and below their eyes all the time. And that having to do with the possibility of some sort of reptilian background.
More than that, really. Yeah. First of all, it's a predator trait, having a slit vertical pupil. Predators have that. Prey animals tend to have horizontal pupils, and their eyes are on the side of the head. So
cats and reptiles.
Yes, and I think there's one species of dog. It's like a wolf-fox hybrid.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
One canid, and I think there's one species of bird that does it too, and it hunts very close to the surface of the water for fish, and I think it has like a very pinpoint precision, like vision for the surface.
Isn't evolution great?
Well, but sure. But the thing is, like,
that was a joke. We don't believe in that here.
I know you're preaching to the choir, you know. But I think everyone's cool here. We're all cool, you know. But
absolutely,
when it comes to like the slit pupils, it's primarily a predator thing, and reptiles do predominantly have slit pupils. Not all of them, you know, and it's even though felines don't, but a lot of them do, and but you will only find it in predators, and it is a tool to be hyper focused on the horizon and pinpoint your prey and to see movement very easily, you know. And like I said, the prey tend to have a wider vision of the horizon because their eyes are on the side of the head and they have a flat pupil. So when you see like something like a clown and a predominant like form of makeup is to put basically serpent slits down the eyes, you know, it's very common. You have to wonder why. Like, where did that come from? And because it represents a reptilian feature, a predator feature, and if you read the Book of Enoch, these things were eating us. They were predators above mankind, and we were prey, you know? And I think when you see something like that, you know, something with white skin and slit pupils and wild, crazy red hair like a clown, it's not surprising so many people are scared of them. And it's a very high fear when maybe deep down, rooted in our collective psyche of some kind, we've been like scarred forever to run when we see something like that, you know, and have a flight response. And I'm not saying evolutionary response, I'm saying more like adaptation to environment response. That's kind of,
well, we do have as humans, we do have the uncanny valley thing.
Exactly, yeah, and it's almost human but not quite, and that's usually the excuse you hear from most like newspapers. Every year there's an article telling you why people are scared of clowns, and that's what they lean on. Uncanny valley. You can't see the true expressions, and that makes us uneasy because we can't gauge people's emotions and where we stand with them.
That's a good cope, though. It works.
What I'm saying is, you know, these things used to eat us, and it looks like something that was actually a predator. Yeah. So I think that's more realistic, you know.
Yes.
Would you say too, like the red? Obviously, there's the red hair. I don't know about the red nose, but at the very least, the red big lip lip makeup or just red all around the mouth. To me, ever since I started looking into your stuff, I immediately thought that looks like a trait of cannibalism, like representative of consuming another creature.
Yes, that I think that's one way of doing it, and the nose being red could be that was also involved with being dipped in the blood while gnawing into a carcass or something like that. And that was my first initial.
Wow,
that was my first.
It does jive.
There is more though. I mean, that was my first take, and it could still be that. Don't get me wrong. You know, I think it could be twofold. I think something else that we also have to realize is, could you imagine what a human being who has lips mixed with a lizard would look like, who doesn't have lips? Now, first of all, snakes have very wide maws. They can dislocate their jaw to eat like eggs and stuff of other animals. You know, they have a very wide mouth from ear to ear type grin. From the front, it looks like they're smiling because of it, but they're not. It's just because they have really, really wide mouths. Now, you mix that with a human that has small mouths but big red lips. Okay.
And you get Julia Roberts.
Yeah, when you slap those things together, you get a big, wide, grinning, big red-lipped looking terrifying monster, you know, with reptilian fangs and teeth possibly, or even, I don't know.
I don't understand how, okay, so they supposedly mated with the daughters of men, and they somehow had these gigantic, ugly, like you get half of the human genetics. How ugly were they that their descendants look like that?
Well, I think the OG original half angel, half human Nephilim were like terrifying to behold, dragon monsters with legs and arms, you know, and possibly wings as well. And they look like more like the terrifying Rakshasa demons of India than anything else. And I think as they went down and diluted their DNA, because even the Nephilim began to have sex with human women, and they created like quarter breeds, and then they had their own children, grandchildren and grandchildren. I think it got a bit more watered down with each passing generation, and traits kind of stuck around, like pale skin and red hair, elongated skulls, maybe slightly wider mouths, pointier features. But the original ones are the ones that look like absolute psychedelic, terrifying, freaky clown monsters, you know what I mean? And they're kind of the ones that you really see the first ancient depictions of everywhere. They're the ones that were killed before the flood. They're the ones that were made to kill each other as a punishment for the watchers who made them. They're the ones who are really trapped behind the veil, you know. They're like the highest ranking ones out of the demon army,
called
I would say.
The terrible ones.
Yeah, these like titans. These things got as big as mountains, you know. These things were ridiculous. Their bodies probably strewn our lands even today, and we're like spelunking through caves, and it's actually just going through the intestines of a giant for all we know. You know what I mean? Like, I think like it's everywhere and evident, and these things were enormous. And you have other parallel tales of the gods kind of contending with the Olympians fighting the Titans in the Titanochemy from Greece, for example. And that's the story of, you know, the Watchers having to kill their own children because their own children were trying to kill them, and it's just an absolute mess.
Have you ever noticed that though? Like in all the old mythology and whatever, the kids always try to kill their parents, and they're trying to take it. It's really, really bad family dynamics.
Oh yeah, it is. It really is. And you'll find
like
in my book,
parents having sex with their children and making babies, offspring with their own kids and their cousins and nephews. It's really disgusting, actually.
The gods kept it in house, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
they were trying to. But if you look into the research I did and what Gary Wayne was talking about as well, there was a real concerted effort to usurp kingdoms of the time with Nephilim as kings instead. So what you find is a lot of gods used to have sex with like the wives of kings, like rape them. And Zeus is a good example of this. He did it quite a lot. He would, in one story, he even became the king and pretended to be the queen's husband, for like 2 weeks while the king was away on business, unbeknownst to the wife. And then he raped her. Obviously, he had sex with her, impregnated her. And when the king came back, he was like, "What's going on?" I was just like, "I'm pregnant," And then she actually gave birth to a demigod, a Nephilim. And then now he has a legitimate right to rule that region, because he's actually the heir to the throne through the queen, So it's that kind of, and there was a lot of that sneaky stuff going on during that time, and I think they were doing it on purpose. It wasn't just randomly just spreading their seed everywhere to cause chaos. I think they were really they had an agenda, and we need to usurp everything. We want to take over the creation, including the kingdoms.
Right. Well, and the opposite of that was, was Odin like, "Hey, I'm going to fuck that horse." They're like, "No, you shouldn't." Turns himself into a horse. Watch this.
Yeah, I think a lot of that came kind of after the initial incursions. I think there was a lot of mixing of kinds going on.
That's a lot of the second incursion type stuff, I think.
I think it's in the book of Jasher, it talks about just before the flood. And this is when the OG Nephilim are dead, and the watchers who made them are kind of in chains by this point. But there's like a 300-year period just before the flood actually comes, where humanity takes it upon themselves to manipulate DNA. Start mixing animals together and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I think
kind of like what they're doing now.
Well, basically, yeah. But I think like the children's children of the original Nephilim was still around. And I think they were also mixing themselves with animals too. And that's where you get a lot of those stories from, I think. And I think that's where we get the cryptids from today. Like dogmen, Mothman, lizard people, like this type of stuff.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, half animal, half human hybrids, which is a traditional cryptid style, and all these chimeric animals all over the place that are like hybrid animals all mixed together. I think that all happened just before the flood. And I think some of them made it through, because if you're a mermaid, a flood's not a big deal.
Right.
And I think
that's what I'm saying. All the evil was destroyed on Earth, but the evil that was in the ocean, no,
not so much. And again, even after that, even the Phoenicians, which is way after the flood, talk about the Dogon fish gods rising out of the sea and teaching them things. And it's because a lot of them did survive, and I think that's how the corruption made it past the flood as well. I think a lot of that was sneaky stuff was going on, and the knowledge that was pre-flood was passed through to the next generation after.
Which could possibly explain why we explore, quote unquote, explore space more than we explore the ocean.
Oh, yeah, the ocean holds the secrets. There's true aliens in that thing. Have you seen the ocean creatures? They're insane.
Yeah. Speaking of the ocean, well, and that in the past and whatever, they just deleted whatever that thing was off the coast of California. It looked like a Parthenon almost and it had been there since Google Earth had been up, and all of a sudden it disappeared.
Oh yeah, the likely story.
Oh, they've had so many of those since Google Earth came up.
But underwater, all the stuff underwater disappeared.
Yeah. Well, it's like, remember the Solomon Islands Giants book that we did an episode on a few months back. I can't remember his name, Maurice, like Marius Panea or something like that. But he lived there. He married a local islander woman, and got in with all the old generation guys, and they were telling him, about all the giant tribes that still live under the islands, inside the islands, the massive shining serpents that would be seen flying in and out of the ocean at certain access points. So clearly that's a thing. His stories were absolutely crazy that he had collected.
I like that. Thanks for sharing. I'll probably use that in the book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can get you the PDF. I know I've got it somewhere.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, if you have anything at all that you think I might be interested in, like I said, I'm combing the whole earth for all the stories, and I'm going to try and compile them in the book, basically. So yeah, send me anything at all with anything relating to giants and dragons is there, because like I said, it's a universal story. You'll find that it's kind of everywhere. It really is. And like Bali's a good region for this as well. And China is the land of the dragons, and they have their own Oni demons there, which are literally the offspring, human dragon hybrid type offspring. They look identical to the Rakshasas of India, which look identical to the Gorgons of Greece. It's earth-wide. This is the same pattern everywhere and the same visage everywhere. They all just have a different name. and a different, like, culturally specific, unique story to the peoples of that region, because they all had slightly different interactions with the Nephilim and their own stories to tell.
Right.
But they're all talking about the same creatures at the end of the day. And I think there is variation. All snakes aren't the same. You know, there is variety among the Nephilim, but I think as a caricature, distilled down, basic image, we get what's called a clown. And maybe we can get into the history of the clown just to kind of clarify, you know, that I'm not just making this up, you know. This is.
I was just going to ask, where does the word clown come from?
It's actually a British colloquial term for clodhopper. It comes from Old Germanic English, and kind of like it's developed throughout Old English from clown, basically. And that's it. That's really all it is. There's not much more there. A lot of people have tried to make word association games to try and come up with ideas.
I thought it was something cool.
Well, originally, you see, clown was a character called Pedrolino from the Italian tradition of the Commedia dell'arte. And the Commedia dell'arte was like a roving gang of actors who had masks and costumes. And they would kind of go from village to village, putting on random shows, just improvised shows with these masks. And then people chuck money into a hat and they knock off to the next town square and do it somewhere else, you know. And that's kind of their 1,000-year-old tradition from the collapse of Rome to the modern day, you know. And you'll find these stock characters they kind of had, which represented people anyone would recognize: rich men, police officers, soldiers, the judge. You know, just common, understandable characters that everybody would know. Is kind of what the characters were of these shows. And Pedrolino was just the servant of a rich man, and he was like a dim-witted, slow fool. You know, and that was kind of the comedy of Pedrolino for like 1,000 years. But when the British caught on to the tradition, they took Pedrolino in a different direction, and they made him like a drunk, shall we say, like I don't care what my boss says, I'm going to do what I want instead type of attitude, you know. And the comedy came from him acting like a witty buffoon, shall we say, kind of like I'm just going to drink and eat sausages and to hell with what my boss says type of stuff. I don't really care. Which is a little bit different from the Italian tradition. The French tradition of Pedrolino is Poirot, and he's like the sad clown. He's like, I'm so sad. Oh, why doesn't the daughter of the rich man love me? You know, why does she love Harlequin instead? What's he got that I haven't got? Really French, you know, really sad sack type of clown. Like just and that was his.
You'd think the Italian clown would be a little more chill than that, but
the Italian clown was more. He was just dumb. Just you know, and he was,
wow,
that was
wow,
it. Yeah.
That was racist. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
His thing was, you know, he just didn't understand what was asked of him any time. That's the comedy, you know. He's just really slow to get it, you know. And that was always against the foil, which was the other servant of the rich man, which was Harlequin. And Harlequin was really intelligent and really quick-witted and fast, you know, and also quite like demonic and brutal and crude and rude, and he had a stick called
oh my god, it
you
just
know?
hit me in the head. Harlequin. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. This is where it comes
yeah,
from.
I know. It took me just till now. I literally, because I've watched literally zero of that. I can't stand any of that cape shit stuff. So, but yeah, Harlequin. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
So Harlequin is where we get the first proto-clown character in European tradition. Harlequin is a relatively new introduction, like a new character that was introduced in about 1500s. And remember, this had been going on since the 500s. So this is like 1,000 years. And then suddenly this random character turns up called Harlequin. And he was added because this traveling troupe who went all throughout Europe and even into Russia, you know, kind of saw that every single place in Europe had this odd tradition every year where they dress up like crazy, wild, hairy beast men with wild, big, colourful clothing and big grins and big teeth and monsters. And they would have this wild party and then a fast for 40 days afterwards, you know, and it's called the Wild Man tradition. And it was everywhere. It's in every single country on the continent. Like you couldn't not find it. So that's a stock character. Everyone would recognize the Wild Man. So let's add it to our troupe, you know, let's add it as a character. So they did. They added the Wild Man, and they called it Harlequin. So Harlequin is modeled after or named after Arlecchino from the Italian tradition. And that's like a drunk of I think it's the Bergamo region of Italy. But then there's also was it Hurricane? Yeah, I think it's Hurricane of Irish tradition. which is basically a hairy club wielding. The Green Man is another one we've heard of to name the same character, and the hairy Cain from Cain's lineage, the Mark of Cain, and these type of things. He was killed supposedly by Lamech and Tubal Cain for being mistaken to be a hairy wild beast in one rendition of this death.
That's interesting. Can I ask you?
Go, yeah.
So that's kind of like, was it Conspiracy R Us? He's done a fair bit on the BOB phenomenon.
Yes.
So do you think that that's like the connection there? Because I've heard that like Bob Dobalina, all of these references to Bob Dobbs, it's all over the place. Do you have you made that connection with Cain before? It's like a Masonic cult of Cain or something. And is that's
more his forte? I have no idea about that, really. I've watched his work on it, and I feel like it's more of a tangent to my work, not necessarily where my work has taken me. But it's still interesting. Sure. I don't really have much to comment on that other than what he's probably already said. I wouldn't know. I mean, in terms of Cain, Cain is important in this story, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was a connection there with Bob and is it the cult of the subgenius?
Yes, the Church of the Subgenius.
Yeah, it's definitely all there in the Illuminati card game as well. And
such a weird thing that popped up. I remember that in the early 2000s. We actually did an episode on the Church of the Subgenius way back in season 1. Yeah,
but really, Conspiracy Auras is the man for that information. He that's his thing. That's his baby. That's kind of what he came up with to offer to the work and body of work. It's not where my work's taken me, and I've stayed hyper focused on what I'm talking about today more than anything. But there's still, I'm not saying there's nothing to what he said. There's definitely, he's made so many connections there himself. And
I was just disturbed a little bit ago on your video stream there. I didn't ever associate Robert Smith of The Cure. But that was one of the most frightening. That has to be one of the most frightening pictures of the day. Was that picture of Robert Smith that you had up there?
He's aged terribly, hasn't
he? He's aged like a glass of milk in the sun in July.
Why doesn't he just retire already? Is the guy not made?
Because they can't. We've gone if they can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can't. Just ask Bob Dylan. Ask Bob Dylan. He told who was it? Morley Safer, the black dude with the one black dude on 60 Minutes with the earring, the cool black guy. He told him that when the commander tells you go, you got to go. He's like, who's the commander? Oh, he's the king of this earth, and the others, well, yeah, Satan. That's why Vince Neil gets up there and embarrasses his entire family by trying to sing with Motley Crue. That's why the Rolling Stones are out there at 90 years old. That's why Metallica is doing a tour at 60, because they have to.
Go and see your great-grandchildren. Stop it.
They can't.
They can't. I know. They're not allowed. I know.
Yeah. Well, they don't have any children because their wives are all men. But,
there's that too.
There's that too.
There is that.
Oh, yeah. You're on the Paranormies now, dude. So.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's cool. Yeah.
We're the guys that all the A-listers are the opposite of what they say they are. The Earth is not a spinning space testicle. Nephilim look like clowns.
Well, yeah. Again, you're preaching to the choir.
I know.
There's only so much I'm allowed to say on the YouTube platform where I predominantly
am. That's true. I keep forgetting that we are also on YouTube as well today.
Well, you can probably say it this far into the video. I think the algorithm doesn't care once it's like an hour in, but it's kind of. But at the same time, it's like I'm aware of all this stuff. It's just not something I'm going to nuke my channel with on YouTube. But
I know. I keep forgetting. I forgot we were on your channel as well today. Yeah. See, on our channel, we don't care. We've been banned from YouTube. We got banned back in 2016 on YouTube for episomes some World War II revisionism, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
And some 2012 revisionism, some Connecticut type revisionism.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that got sued for $1 billion type revisionism.
Yeah. So 2 and 2. I can put that together.
Yeah, those got us kicked off of YouTube, and then we were systematically removed from every other podcasting source until recently. And I've heard that YouTube has relaxed a lot of things. But some of the channels that we've listened to in the past, like they do the like what's his name, Matt from Quantum of Conscience uses what he calls hobo code to speak around stuff, or what's his name there, Static in the Attic will use different words for stuff.
I think Tony from God Rules, he does the same thing. He's like a master of double speak and like code words.
Yeah.
I mean, you've just got to be clever about it. I think they are a lot more relaxed than they used to be. But the thing is about YouTube, they're relaxed until they're not. It's kind of
Yes.
Yeah.
They could arbitrarily just get you for something you said 6 years ago in a video because it's now not okay to say. You see what I mean? And then 5 years down the line, they'll be over it and they're on about something else, you know. And I've had a strike or two for saying things I didn't realize I couldn't say until after the fact, you know. And you've just got to take the indoctrination course and wait 3 months for your strike to disappear, you know. And it's kind of it's bullshit, you know. I but it is a game. You kind of got to play it if you want to stay on this platform. And you know, I've got my niche, you know.
Even with like things that you imply, like our friend Lucius Aurelian, his channel, he is the most polite, like you know, he's an ex-history professor in college, never uses profanity, never does things, but some of the topics that he discusses just seem to be so over the target sometimes that like they don't even give an excuse, they just will take the video down. It does happen. I've only had one video taken down like that instantly, an instant ban, instant strike. No, well, just before the thing hadn't even been made public yet is what annoyed me. Like I just literally uploaded
like how?
And they did it before I even clicked publish. You know what I mean? Like, and it was on. There was a big scare at one point that they were about to test a particular signal. And everyone thought it would interact with a particular thing that might be inside everybody's bodies now, and it would cause a Resident Evil situation to occur.
Right.
And I made my own commentary on that idea.
Wow. How dare you?
And you know, I even said they literally did this in England like 2 weeks ago, and no one's walking around eating each other. So I think you're going to be okay in America. That's all I said. Right. Okay. So I wasn't even like.
Unless you're in Florida, because occasionally Florida man likes to eat people.
It's too late for Florida.
It is. It really is. It is. The swamps,
Florida man.
Yeah,
it's too late. You know, ever since that Under the Bypass video came out, like 8 years ago, with the with the spy stuff epidemic going around, it's too late for you guys. It's already happening. You know, but
I still believe that the whole like bath salts and all that stuff was literally just a government experiment where like a Resident Evil type escapee actually escaped.
So maybe.
I know, dude. What's going on nowadays? Nothing. I am Jack's lack of surprise. Like there's nothing surprises.
Didn't it take like 6 shots to put the guy down, if not more? Or something?
It was something like that. Yeah,
it was more
literally ventilated him.
Did they not know to aim for the head? It's like the number one rule of the game.
Right. It's the rules. I mean, don't you ever play it? Yeah, exactly.
Double pap.
Yeah,
pop. Yep.
Well, either way, I got out of that strike situation. I learned a lesson that day. Just there's things you can't say on certain platforms. It's not like I don't believe these things. And I have my Telegram.
Oh, I understand.
Even in my Telegram group, you know, we talk about everything else there instead. You know? It's kind of
the Telegram group that I'm not allowed to comment in because it's public, and my personal account was just hit with illegal. I had posted illegal content on Telegram of all places.
I know, right?
Which I haven't done. But
I'm got to make that known.
My account is now limited, so I can only post on my own channel and private chats. I'm no longer allowed to speak publicly anywhere on Telegram for something that I have no idea what, because they don't give you an appeal. They don't give you you can send an email, sure, but they don't answer your emails. They don't reply. So Telegram is doing its own, like occasionally it'll, we just lost our chat. We had a chat attached to our channel. Our channel's been up since, 2018, Reinhardt?
2019.
2019. So 2019, we started our channel. We had the chat started at the same time. The chat has been going the entire time. Woke up the other day, chat's gone. Completely gone. Just gone. Just disappeared. Telegram nuked it. No reason, no nothing. A lot of channels will get the Apple ban. We've never had that happen to our channel, but the chat just poof gone.
You should have kept your mouth shut, man.
In my private, should have said too much in my private chat room, which is supposed to be totally private and secure because it's Telegram. Yeah, how dare you? How dare you talk about things
secure?
Nothing, dude. The VPN, everybody thinks the VPN protects them. No, I actually think a VPN actually alerts them. It's really like, okay, this guy's got a VPN. Let's check him out a little harder.
That sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well, I've flown under the radar for long enough. Back in the early days, the 2016 period when things were really politically charged, like it was a really wild time for like tension and like I got a few video strikes taken down in that time. I went through a more of a just caution to the wind, whatever. I'm just gonna say what I want when I want type of attitude. And like I said, you learn some lessons. And I've come, like I said, since I came back, I've realized there's a game here. And if you want longevity, you've kind of got to play
Absolutely.
it, and so I'm careful. And like it's take Telegram down. So what? They take Telegram down. I don't care. But
Telegram is. I mean, I'll just make another one. It's not the point. You know what I mean? But still, but it's just like, wow, Telegram, you're supposed to be the cool guy that doesn't do that kind of stuff. What up, Durov? Anyway, on your stream, you just had a shot of 2 of the Paracas skulls.
Yes.
What is your take on those? Are those Nephilim skulls? Are those?
Yeah, well, there are practices like headboarding, where they crush the infant's
right,
skull
but not the ones that are the headbanding, any of that kind of stuff. The ones that are the real deal.
Well, there's a very big distinctive difference between the two types of skulls. The human versions, first of all, don't have an increased volume because all they've done is squashed it. They can't make more volume. These skulls have a vast, huge space for brain, more than a human does. Like it's just more space.
It's like
literal mega mind.
More cranial capacity, I believe it was. I was just rewatching old L.M. Marzulli videos.
Yeah, it's and they have no sagittal suture either, so they are quite different in design to us. And the neck is placed higher, I believe, than ours, where the spine would connect. So they're not human, that's for sure. There's something else. They're human-esque, humanoid. But they've clearly been hybridized with something else. So yes, it's likely they could be Nephilim. They could be the descendants of the Nephilim, such as the Nephil or the Elio, which are more human-like, maybe like 8 foot, 7 foot tall, 9 foot tall humanoid descendants of Nephilim or something. They could simply just be humans who have mixed themselves genetically with other people's DNA. I lean more towards Nephilim because of the red hair. And the stories of like the Paiute Indians, for example, who fought against the Ceotics, which were a cannibalistic, red-haired, white-skinned giant tribe who basically kept warring with this other tribe. And in the end, the other tribe just decided to kill them because they'd had enough, of them stealing their women and their children and eating them, basically. And they were killed in Lovelock Cave. That's the famous story. And they were trapped in there after being dwindled down in number, and they refused to give up. They refused to change their ways. They refused to stop eating people. The Indians who were killing them were giving them every chance, saying, please just stop being like monsters and be like us and we'll put the fire out. And they're like, no, screw you. And they just
no, we want to eat you.
Basically. Yeah. And it's kind of fine, right, you have it your way, we're going to genocide you all. And they set fire to the cave, and they never came out, but they did uncover the bones.
And of course, the Smithsonian.
Hundreds of years later.
The Smithsonian came and took them away.
Well, actually, in this case, the Skull and Bones Lodge came in and took them.
No, okay. So the Smithsonian.
Yeah, and basically those went missing. Those bones were used in some kind of ritual, and they'd never been seen ever again.
Of course.
So very odd.
Just
story.
like the Indian skull, right? The Native American skull that was supposedly used that one time.
There's loads of examples of this. I mean, it's actually one of the descendants of the tribe who tells this story. Says her great-great-great-grandfathers passed this thing down throughout generations, and she was telling this story in like 1897 or something like that, as a lecture to a university at the time. And she says we have this thing called a mourning dress, which is made from the hair of these monsters that they were killing, and it's a huge red dress, made of red hair.
Itchy like a Kafka.
But it's red hair,
like a Kafka,
so we know they have red hair at least because of that, And that was an interesting take. But yeah, there's loads
of bunch of soulless gingers they are.
Well, it's not ginger hair; it's red hair. No, I think a lot of people get confused when we say this. It's not like slightly orangey blonde color. I'm talking like blood red. Like it's really like humans don't have that kind of colored hair. It just doesn't exist,
No, it just doesn't. That's like the Bozo the Clown color hair. Like that color. That's not real human. Yeah. Speaking of that, man, I forgot Bozo was a pedophile. Like I had blocked that out of my memory until I was listening to I was re-listening to your stuff for the show today.
Yeah.
And that came back up, and I was like, oh, because he was like he turned as the person who played Bozo was a literal pedophile.
There was a lot of people who played him throughout the years. They kept changing the actor all the time. I think one of them was though, yeah.
Well, like the guy that played it the longest. No, it was the guy that played it the longest.
Yeah, and well, obviously you obviously have what's his name as well, John Wayne Gacy.
I was about to say.
I was
John
going to
Wayne
mention Gacy.
And-
He did the spiky sides of the face, and there's, from what I understand, I've heard that there's some CIA connections there, maybe.
Yeah, well, he
and-
wore a Secret Service pin in one photo where he's with a government official in his local area. Was it Indiana? Was it Chicago? Isn't it? I think he did.
Indiana.
He did some.
Was it Indiana?
Okay.
Well, Indiana's is Indianapolis. I think is the headquarters of the Royal Order of the Jesters, and he's only about 30-minute drive from that headquarters. And from his local Royal of the Order Jester Lodge, he was only like round the corner, 10 minutes. And yeah, he did a lot of work for like the lighting of the area or something like that. Some kind of, I don't know how you describe it. Just he helped like the local council with stuff, But he was also a member of the Moose Lodge, which is like a fraternal order offshoot of Freemasonry in his own area. And
Right.
I think he ended up. It says he killed 33 young boys and men.
33, huh?
33, yeah, and he was also mixed up in trafficking. Trafficking young boys, and he was even recorded by the police talking to two men who were freaking out because they thought they were going to get caught, and they think he was talking to some traffickers. And there's a lot of stuff on that guy which is dodgy. But if you look into the Royal Order of the Jesters, which is the highest order of Freemasonry, they are heavily involved in human trafficking. And it's not even a secret. So he was likely working with his local Royal Order of the Jester Lodge to get victims sent to him. And yes, he only started dressing like a clown halfway through his spree. And you have to wonder if he became privy to a certain secret society knowledge and started channeling demons and working intimately with demons while also doing the most heinous things to the most innocent. It's kind of, I feel like he became one with that aspect. And I think the practice of dressing like a clown is no secret to the orders. But to the public, it is. I think he became privy to the secret and started utilizing it himself, I think.
Well, the orders themselves, are clowns, the Shriners.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's get into the history of a clown. So I gave you a brief history of the Commedia dell'arte stuff, So first of all, Harlequin is a representation of European demons, the wild man, a tall, colourful, hairy beast creature with a club that went through the forest eating people. So that's a Nephilim. It's just a hairy version because it's cold in Europe. So I think they were hairier the further north you went. If you go to like the hot regions of the earth, like Africa or India or Bali or Australia, they're completely hairless because it's hot. So I think there was adaptation to environment going on, certainly, but they were all giant bloodthirsty monsters either way and very colourful with predominantly white skin and red hair. So that's a base, But yeah, Harlequin was the European Nephilim, and Harlequin was modelled after that character and added to the Commedia dell'arte travelling, and he became the co-servant with Pedrolino the clown of the rich man, and them two would fight each other all the time, and that's the comedy. So when Britain took over the tradition and kind of brought the pantomime and copied what they were doing, they changed clown Pedrolino to be more like Harlequin. So they copied Harlequin's original character. It'd been like 300 years since like Harlequin was invented. And again, not only was it the Hurricane and Arlecchino, but also Helikins of the French tradition is where he got his name from. Helikins is a club-wielding giant with a band of merry demons who followed him everywhere and killed people. So that's kind of from a 10th century monk's recounting of witnessing the wild beast. It's actually from a real, writings. He's saying, I witnessed this monster with his demons and he was a giant with a club. So that's where the tradition kind of copied and borrowed from. But anyway, when you get to England, clown wasn't like Pedrolino, who was wearing white rags. The British version became this colourful psychedelic monster out of nowhere. After hundreds of years of it being the same costume, suddenly it just changed into a real terrifying looking colourful mess, and no one's explained why anywhere. So I went out and I researched and I went through all the memoirs of everyone involved at this time, and it turns out there was a young son of an extremely famous Freemason of the day called Charles Dibdin. His son, Charles Dibdin Jr., they always had the same names. It's really annoying. It makes everything very complicated when you're going through the genealogical records, but I deduced that he basically had his son hired by the runner of a very popular theatre of the time, Sadler's Wells in London. He knew the fathers were friends with the guy who owned it, Richard Hughes, and he says, hire my son to run your thing. He's like, yeah, no worries, dude, I've got your back, you know. And he hired his son to run the theater for him, and he decided to change the costume to plain, boring rags to colourful psychedelic monster. And where did he get his inspiration from? Well, it's actually very obvious when you look into who the Dibdins were. Charles Dibdin, Sr., was heavily connected to India. He loved India. He was obsessed with the place. His brother, Thomas Dibdin, was a member of the East India Company, currently colonizing India for the Great British Empire of the day, you know. And he would visit his brother often in India, in Calcutta. And I think he became intimately well known and well acquainted with Indian iconography of demonology, because he was also a member of the Leicestershire Lodge of Freemasonry in the UK. So he was a Freemason as well, and he was a traveling man, you know. And I think he understood the secrets of spiritual warfare. And I think when he saw the Indians' representation of the demons, I think he was inspired. And I think his son, probably an apple doesn't fall far from the tree, took the same inspiration and dressed the clown like the Rakshasa demons of India. And I show on my channel the comparisons of these temple demons and what the clown first looked like, and it's identical. The costume is identical to how these Rakshasa demons were represented. It's not even like a little bit like nuanced. It's just a carbon copy, you know. They stole it basically. So quite literally, the Western image of a clown who was invented by Joseph Grimaldi, they say, the first man who came up with the first clown costume. He was just the actor who wore the costume. He didn't invent the costume. It was the son of a Freemason who basically stole it from India and dressed this actor this way. But he's been acquainted with being the father of all modern clowns. All modern clown costumes are copies of his original one. He inspired the look of the clown we have today, apparently. But really, it's a representation of Rakshasa demons of India. So Harlequin, the first proto-clown character, modeled after European demons, the wild man. And then later, clown, Pedrolino, was modeled after Indian demons, the Rakshasas. So clowns have always been a representation of demons. Even like historically speaking, they have always been that. I've not just made that up. Like that's literally what they have always been. And we just forgot that. You know, and then go ahead.
Is there a kabuki connection in there as well?
Well, kabuki theater is a mass theater. It's very similar to the tradition of the commedia dell'arte, but more of obviously the Japanese version. But they have their own demons. They have the Oni demons and the dragons as well. And so I think they have their own representations, which are quite clownish in their own theaters. Yeah, I would say so. But they have their own thing going on. You know, I'm just talking about where the Western clown comes from. I would say the Japanese demon, the Oni, is the closest thing we have to a Nephilim representation, which has the same features of wide grin, bulging eyes, colourful skin, slight serpent fangs, clown features. They're definitely there. Yeah. So there you go. That's the history of a clown. It's literally a model of after demons. There's no two ways about it. And Freemasons invented it. And then it was hijacked from then on, and it was brought over to America when the first circuses were being created. And you'll find a lot of businessmen who were all Freemasons put on circuses in America for the first time. It became the traveling circus on the railroad. It became the big top tent. You'll find as the years went on, after many failed attempts, and when it was finally established, somebody got involved in the game called P.T. Barnum, and Phineas Taylor Barnum was a member of the Odd Fellows. Yep. And the Odd Fellows logo is 3 interlocking rings, and P.T. Barnum invented the 3-ring circus. So that's another symbolism slapped straight into the
We just
circus.
did an episode on him about a month ago.
Yeah, terrible charlatan. Really did some horrible things for money, you know, and didn't care. He was a grifter through and through. And he got very late into the circus game, actually. I think he was like 60 when he got involved with circuses, but he brought with him his own lodge symbolism. But if you look at all the early circuses, they're all Freemason run, every single one of them. And they basically all got together to put on one giant show, which traveled all over America and Europe, called King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This was in the late 1800s, I think, mid 1800s, and it was enormous. It was a massive show, obsessed with King Solomon, because Freemasons are obsessed with King Solomon. Like, they love the guy. They were trying to build his temple all the time. They believe Hiram Abiff was the first master mason next to Solomon who built the temple, and it's a lot of Solomon worship goes on in Freemasonry, okay? So then you look at modern circuses, and you have the ringmaster who runs the circus, the performance, and he has this top hat and a riding crop, they say, looks like a because traditionally the first British circus was a guy on the back of a horse doing backflips. And that was what circuses kind of roughly began. Philip Astley was the first person to do that, an ex-general who rode horses and did tricks on them. And so they say the ringmaster is modeled after the riding crops, people who were doing that back in the day. But more traditionally, if you actually look at Freemason clothing, it's more like that. It looks like a Freemason garb, you know.
With the top hat and all that, exactly.
The top hat is actually in Freemasonry, and you can look this up on their own websites. This is public knowledge, okay? I didn't have to dig deep to find this out. It represents the crown of Solomon, and only the leader of the lodge, the worshipful Grand Master, can wear a hat. And it's traditionally a top hat. It can be any shape you want it to be, but
it usually is a top hat.
It's usually always a top hat, yeah. In like Texas, they wear bowler hats. Do you know what I mean? Or they wear like cowboy hats or something like.
Well, it's Texas,
yeah.
So,
they mix it up on region, but it's top hats traditionally. So the ringmaster, who wears the Freemason garb and a top hat, is King Solomon. And King Solomon was said to have a magical ring in which he could control demons to build his temple. Okay.
So the 3 rings.
So he's the ringmaster. He is King Solomon.
He is the Lord of the Rings.
He is the Lord of the Rings. That's right.
I knew you'd get one in there somehow, Reinhardt.
And, King Solomon controls demons with his ring, and the ringmaster controls clowns with his ring. So it's all Freemasonic analogy for Solomonic rituals. That's what circuses are. That's what they are.
The Solomon controlling the demons, and the demons are clowns. That just clicked too.
That's why they adopted the clown into the circus, because it's a perfect representation of what they are actually dealing with. And that's why that's it. That's what circuses are. That's what clowns are. That's what it all really is. It's Freemasonic lodge rituals on a massive public scale, and you don't even know. You pay to go take part in these rituals, and and they're laughing at you. It's a cult. It's hidden. You're not supposed to know that's what it really is, but that's exactly what it is to the initiated. And now I've said it, you're going to see it everywhere. Like, it's obvious now. It really is.
Oh, sure. I mean, we see it in kids' cartoons all the time now. It's kind of just taken a different shape. And, like just about any Hollywood movie that you're watching, you're taking part in a little bit of a ritual that's embedding stuff in the unconscious, I would say is fair to say. The superb owl, that's a big one. And any time that there's like kind of a public display, you got your 33 and
they encode it in everything. Yeah, I mean, on the screen right now, you can't see it. There's a 20-second delay for you guys, but it's coming up soon. The Shriners. So they kind of took over circuses in the more 1900s, middle 1900s. And because there was other forms of entertainment that were better than circuses by this point, where they could indoctrinate people. Circuses were all that was around at one point, and you didn't miss the performance when it came to your town. But now we have radio, TV, and things have developed way out of hand now. So there's other ways they can get the message out to people and indoctrinate people. So circuses
now you can see it through your Black Mirror.
Exactly, yeah, but circuses kind of fell to the wayside and were taken over by Shriners. They kind of were the sect that kind of adopted it, And you'll find most American circuses are Shriner run today, and the biggest one in America is run by Shriners, and they use the money of being clowns to fund their hospitals for dying children. That's the cover story. But really, someone, I think her name was S. Frost. I forget her first name. I want to say Susan. I think it's Sandy Frost. That's her name. She wrote a great book called Vampires of Charity. And she basically is like a serious thorn in the side of the Shriners. She won't leave them alone. And she keeps like exposing all their tax documents and how they're just committing fraud constantly. And they kind of try and smear her. She's like, no, screw you. I'm going to do it anyway. And just keeps like releasing them all, the public records, and saying, where are these millions of dollars from your charity gone? But you said went towards the hospitals, but didn't turn up. And it's kind of, it turns out they're funneling that money into the parties of the Royal Order of the Jesters.
Of course.
And the Royal Order of the Jesters is a step above Shriners, and you can only become a Royal Order of the Jester member by invitation. And if you ask, you'll never be a member. So you can only be selected secretly. Only 13.
Oh, can you imagine being a Shriner and like knowing that the guy you're riding with is the Royal Order of the Jesters, and
and get this, you have to be a full Freemason, you have to be a full-fledged all the way to the end Shriner, and you may get selected,
You can't be a Shriner without being a Mason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but exactly. It's like all Shriners are Masons, but not all Masons are Shriners. Yeah. It's the same. It's like smaller and smaller pools of.
It's the highest honor, though, to become
Oh, absolutely.
a jester. Why a jester? Why is that the highest pinnacle of Freemasonry?
Well, because the court, I don't know, the court jester was the guy who kept the king's attention.
Well, there's that as well. Or could it simply be that they are quite literally venerating jester-like entities in the DMT realm?
There's also that. The jester, where did the jester in the court come from?
The jesters traditionally are mimics of the king. And remember when I said they had this traveling gang of actors from 500 AD? Well, with the collapse of Rome and the rise of Christendom, acting was kind of like a dirty job. It was like being a prostitute. It was frowned upon. So a lot of these actors, performers of the time kind of left Rome and traveled around. And
was it because they were all gay?
Well, no, they were just. Or
is that just a modern thing?
It's like a dirty profession to pretend to be something you're not. It's like you're lying to people. Acting is
and a lot of them were charlatans.
Yeah, exactly. But you find a lot of kings hired personal funny men, because who's going to argue against a king, you know? Again, you had their own court jesters, and that's kind of where the tradition kind of started to really arise and get popularized, you know, all throughout the Middle Ages and the medieval period. And it became like the costume of a jester is a copy of a king. The floppy crown is a king's crown, and the scepter and all this type of thing. So his job was just to mock the king and keep him, you know, that's what they say. You know?
The jester's hat with the thingies isn't really like the Nephilim's.
Originally, it wasn't related in any way, no, but I think maybe it could have been, because it's odd that what people see in the DMT realm are jesters that have these.
Yeah, they have like the Sideshow Bob hair.
Yeah, exactly, but it's not hair, it's the skull is shaped like that. It's weird, it's trippy, man. I've seen it myself, and this is how I know, because I used to dabble.
Well, I have,
I
never see. I've never seen faces. I've only seen the DMT elves twice, and I never saw faces.
Well, the kind of disembodied nebulous messes, I would say today. But I think when they do shine through in some way, clownish jester is a common theme. There are other things there, I think, as well, other than the Nephilim. Don't get me wrong; it's a vast, complicated spirit realm, you know. But I think these giant jester-like creatures, I think they are akin to something like the Nephilim in spirit form. In physical form, they look more like clowns, I would say. So there's something odd with court jesters, but primarily, I don't think they were really. There was nothing odd about them other than them trying to mock the king, but them having control over, like I said, the king's ear while dressing like something that is in the spirit realm, channeling them is definitely like the Nephilim still had like influence over the earthly kingdoms, you know, through just being there in the courts, you know. So there's definitely something to that, which is odd. You'll find like Venice and the Venetian style and the Carnival style of jester started to arise when Harlequin became a thing, because Harlequin had the diamond pattern leotard, you know, and you'll find a lot of jesters then started to take that form, kind of mimicking how Harlequin looked, the wild man, you know, and that's where you start to get more of the beast-like, terrifying-looking jester style appearing, which is more akin to a clown. So it became a hybrid, but the original ones just look like kings. They look like silly-looking kings, you know, floppy crowned kings. And I think it became more demonic as time went on, and when Harlequin became a thing, and it's very odd, honestly. But you'll find today, I would say, dressing like a typical modern version of a jester is very much just channeling demons. It looks like clowns. It's the same thing, you know. So I think that barrier got crossed a long time ago. And yes, I think jesters and clowns today are pretty much the same thing. Jesters are just wittier clowns. You know what I mean? That's what I'd say they look like. And the clothing is very similar to clowns these days. Diamond, checkered patterns, that type of stuff.
Right.
But it wasn't originally. It wasn't. That was more of a Venice influence, a Venetian influence. And a wild man influence, a northern European influence. So it's all very. The history is wild, honestly. Again, it's all kind of documented in the book. But the jester question, because at the end of the day, I'm not just talking about like funny men, because there's always been funny people. There's always been comedians since the dawn of humanity, you know. And I think people get a little bit hung up on the actions of the clown and comedians when I'm talking about my theory. And I'm like, really, I'm just dealing with aesthetics here. I'm dealing with the understanding that cultures around the earth dress in colourful clothing, white up the skin, put red lipstick on, put on a red wig, do crazy dances and take drugs, and they channel spirits. And they know what they're doing when they do that. They do it on purpose to channel the spirits of what they call ancestors. But they don't mean mum, dad, grandmas, uncles, all that type of stuff. They mean primordial gods who built their civilization. That's what they mean by ancestor, you know. And when they dress that way, they do it to let the demon, the ancestor, in their body. And then they drink stuff, eat stuff, have sex with things, do anything the demon will enjoy, okay? To please the demon in their vessel. Because the demon is now using their senses to feel stuff, to taste stuff, to smell stuff, to see stuff, to hear stuff. It's using the vessel's senses vicariously. And the vessel is willing, usually, in these cultures. Use me to taste this blood. Use me to, feel this pleasure or experience this nicotine or the alcohol or whatever. Use my tongue to sense these things. And then when the demon's pleased, it'll give the possessed something in return. It's a transaction. And usually the request is something like, especially in these tribal cultures, the ability to be cut and not bleed, or the ability to have the strength of 10 men, or the ability to read minds or something. You know what I mean? Like they usually want something that makes it useful in
something
their context.
to make them more powerful.
Yeah, power is usually the game. So that's how they use it. Now in the West, I think that's the secret of the industry of music and talent and art. Dress like a clown and channel the demons, make sacrifices to them, and you'll become rich and famous and powerful as a transaction.
Sacrifice one of your band members.
Something like that, yeah. And
Well,
I think that's the secret, because you look at like the most godly idolized people throughout history in the music industry. People like David Bowie, Iggy Stardust, you know. He was well known for whitening up the skin, redding up his hair, and wearing colourful psychedelic clothing because he was doing the same thing. And now he's immortalized as a god, apparently, throughout the annals of history, when really he was just a demon channeling weirdo. That's the secret. That's the secret. It's not about having talent. That'll come afterwards once you make the sacrifice. You know, it's about dressing up like a clown, basically. And even right now, have you seen Chappell Roan? Have you seen this one? Some new up-and-coming artist. She has a song called Pink Pony Club. It's been played everywhere on the radio all of a sudden.
Oh, God.
Well, she quite literally dresses like a clown with psychedelic clothing, red hair, white skin. And she's part of the LGBT community, all that type of thing.
Of course.
And do you know why she does it? What her cover story is? She said, I was bullied in high school by a bunch of straight cis white men and all the boys kept saying, why do all like gay people like clown themselves up? Why do they do that? Why do they have that look? What's the point, you know? And she was like, to show them, I'm going to dress like a clown and get famous. It's like, oh, you really showed them, you know? It's like you proved their point, you know, whatever. But no, the real thing is she did that and then got famous because of it. And it's not that she's talented. She probably thinks she is because she's a delusional narcissist, no doubt. But the point is she was chosen by Freemasons who own the industries because she dressed like that. That's why she was chosen. Because when you get people who look like that, who want to be famous, make them famous and other people will copy them because they become idols. Okay, and when you make idols out of people who dress this way and people start worshipping them and emulating them and dressing like them to be like their idols, their gods, then you're opening up more channels in the West. More people dressing like clowns, great. More vessels for demons to inhabit. And that's the game. That's the game. And that's why every like Halloween there's a new demon clown film coming out, or a new rendition of It, or a new Joker comes out every 5 years, or there's always something clown related every Halloween. They
have to keep it in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, and to make people dress like it for Halloween, no doubt, when, you know, the veil is thinnest between the spirit realm and the physical realm. Samhain, as the Celtics understood it. You know, it's kind of they are trying to clown us up. And I'm not even joking. Like, I did a video, one of my recent videos was just the past 10 years of clown propaganda. It's heavy now. And there's even in 2023, Elle Fashion Week, catwalks in like Paris and France and Spain, you know, really high-end fashion industries, clown aesthetic. And I'm not even joking. The clowns were walking down runways. People dressed like clowns.
I mean, why not? Why not? You know,
well, it's called
Louis Vuitton's clownwear.
Yeah, it's called Clowncore, and they
Clowncore.
Yeah, and there's a whole.
There's a whole.
We need Jack.
There's a band called that, funny enough, which is an acid jazz band, which is neither here nor there. But there's also
they're actually pretty cool.
Actually there's actually a subculture though on TikTok which followed the clowncore trend. And it's a bunch of Gen Z kids who literally dress like clowns. It's a legitimate fashion.
And then
choice
the hot female clown.
I was gonna say the Clussy.
I didn't want you to say the word. We were trying not to say it all.
Oh dear.
Paul, I've got one question for you.
Sure.
So one of one of the archetypes that keeps showing up in modern day music videos. They'll show up at festivals. There's actually there's a guy who went to a festival, was met somebody in a bar, and the guy was like, "Hey, why don't you come to this festival out in the desert with me?" He's like, "Sure, why not?" Takes him out there. All sorts of ritual stuff is happening out there. Serpent imagery everywhere. DJs up there, faces changing. But at these festivals and in music videos, I think one was in Pink music video. It's the skull clown makeup, and guy's wearing a top hat, always has the cane with him. And this is supposedly, and I think Zach King was that very famous guy who was a satanic high priest converted to Catholicism. He confirmed that is a sort of high priest outfit.
Haitian voodoo is what popularized that more than anything. Through Baron Samedi, which is Baron Saturday. He is a part of the Guide family pantheon of gods within the Haitian voodoo type of worldview. And they channel him by wearing a purple suit with a purple top hat, skeleton face makeup, have a cane usually, and they smoke cigars and drink whiskey when possessed to please him, because that's his particular flavor of sacrifice. That's what he wants to experience. And that's really common. And then they usually get powers, voodoo powers from it, and transactional power, spiritually speaking, from that practice. And Haitian voodoo is actually a really odd blend of African ancestor spirit worship, which is why I have this practice of dressing like something to channel the spirits. That's where that comes from. But it also, because it was France colonizing Haiti at the time, an odd blend of French Catholicism mixed with Freemasonry, mixed with African ancestor spirit worship, became the religion of voodoo. And it's really odd. It really is. And you look at their symbolism, they are doing Freemasonic square and compasses with Catholic crosses while doing sacrifices to demons. It's a really odd
It's
blend,
a really weird amalgam of religions. When we did a while back, we did a show on voodoo, and researching that, I was just like, wait a minute. So they do this and this, but also this, which is opposed to that. And
it's funny because the
story...
But
it's not, though.
Well, the story is that they kicked out the colonizers, but to do that, they made a deal with the devil. It's what the people of the island believe, Right. And the Christians of that place say this place is evil, and the devil runs this place because they made that deal. That makes sense. Yeah, no, they generally believe that. They made a deal with the devil, and that they got their island back,
Well, it's one of those cases where it's like, you don't have to believe them but they do.
Oh, they believe it. They believe it.
Yeah, it's like with the elites, like they believe in this weird Luciferian or whatever these things they believe in, and most normal people are like, I don't believe that. I don't believe they believe it. You don't have to. You don't have to. They do.
It's funny, back to your original point about the Hatman character. So that's what it is. It's a Hatman archetype. You're right. And it turns up everywhere, all over cultures. And that's just like the most popular version from the Haitian voodoo culture, where you see it quite often, even today, quite prevalent in like a physical sense. But spiritually speaking, people see the Hatman all the time in like the spirit realm, and like sleep paralysis. It's very common with shadow people and stuff like this. The Hatman's a character that always turns up. And he's said to like exude extreme evil. Like his presence is just bone chilling when he's around, and he's not like the other shadow entities. There's something that sets him apart. You know what I mean? And I've kind of done a lot of research on the Hatman. I've made a few videos. I had my own encounter with him, which sparked my interest. I didn't know anything about him until I saw the guy for myself in a dream.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow. Tell us about that.
I basically had a dream, and it was so odd because I was walking. I have the whole video on my channel where I did a visual breakdown of the whole thing. I'm walking down this path, and I'm walking towards this Victorian gate entrance to like a hedge maze, and next to that gate is some family members, which are all dead, and they're all drinking tea and having a party and a picnic, and they invite me over. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not, guys? This makes perfect sense at the time because I'm in a dream, And I join them. I start drinking some tea, eating some cake, and they're all laughing and having fun. And then I get a phone call in the dream, and I answer the phone, it's an old Nokia like flip phone, you know what I mean? And the ringtone's like, you know, and I answer this thing. And by the way, these phones are long gone by this point in reality, you know, but this is the one I've got in my dream, perfectly normal. And I open it up and this voice says to me like, don't think I forgot about our previous conversation. I'm coming for you now. And it was dark, you know, and I'm like, what? And then suddenly, bam, I remember another dream I had, who knows when. But it's a dream I'd already had in the past, you know. And I'm walking through this mudscape with tiered shacks and huts everywhere and bodies all over the place writhing away. And it's like a festival, but on like a mass scale in like a very horrible place, you know. And wails and screams were all over the place. You could call it something like hell, you know, but it's like they're having a giant party. I couldn't explain it. And next thing I'm on stage in front of millions of people. And then I snap back to this dream where I'm in front of this hedge maze, you know, on the phone. And I remembered like, okay, everything's changed now. All my dead relatives are gone. It's dark, clouds overhead, and sinister. And on the horizon, I see the Hatman coming towards me. And he's like billowing, like colorful ribbons behind him. He's wearing like a pimp outfit, purple outfit, you know, just like Papa Legba would look like, you know. And his eyes are glowing, this vicious, yellowy, horrible, putrid orange color. And he's kind of just, there's like waves of dark energy coming off him, like a cloud. I really can't explain it, but he kind of looked like a Morris dancer with all these ribbons coming off and this colorfulness. And he's coming towards me, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I just turn away and run. And I'm thinking, like, I must have made a deal with this guy at some point. I owe him something, apparently. Again, I don't remember what I did to owe this guy something, but he's coming to collect is all I could realize. So I go through the hedge maze. I just jump over the hedges. I don't have time to figure out a bloody hedge maze at this point, you know. So I get to the other side, and I'm in like a high street full of shops. And I run down the road, and it's like the road just peels away in front of me like paper. And I'm looking over a vast chasm. And there's like a Russian Cyrillic sign hanging next to me, which like creaking away and all rusted, something like out of Silent Hill. And the sky's all brown and black and weird, and I can tell this guy's right behind me and he's about to kill me. And I just basically wrench myself awake, kicking and screaming, covered in sweat, and I'm back in the room again. And I woke up like, what the hell was that? What just happened to me? So I do a search afterwards on Google, man with hat trying to kill me, something like that, you know what I mean? Like, and then suddenly I found out there's actually a book published on this called The Hatman by someone called Heidi Hollis, and it turns out this guy has been encountered by thousands of people for many, 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 many years. And I had my own encounter for the first time, and then I discovered it was a thing, you know? So that sparks a lot of research in my years, and I basically figured out he's like the accountant of the spirit realm. He's like the lawyer for the demons. He has a job to do. You know what I mean? And he keeps things in order and makes sure like people pay up when they need to pay up. You know what I mean? He's like the guy who's like sorting everything out for the contracts that are made, for the soul contracts. He maintains.
He's like a collector.
Yeah, he like maintains them. Yeah, he's like something like that. And I don't think he's a demon. I think he's probably an angel, a fallen angel of some kind. He's definitely has way more power than a demon. Like I can't explain it. And he's very litigious. From what I've gathered in my research, he's very specific about the law, the spiritual laws. He doesn't break the laws. He plays by them perfectly, like a good lawyer does, you know, to get his own way. And that makes sense because that's kind of what the Christian situation is, you know. Satan's the accuser, and you know he's the prosecutor, and our lawyer is Jesus, basically. You know, and he judges us by the law. Jesus saves us from the law. Because we can't fulfill it, you know, and that's basically kind of how it makes sense, and that would be the situation. And clearly, I had made some kind of soul contract with the demon in the past without realizing it, and I'm pretty sure all those contracts are broken since I gave myself to Christ since that time, you know, and this completely different situation. But that opened my eyes to like a true nature of spiritual warfare. It's like a real tangible thing, and it seems unlikely I would have an experience with an entity with no prior knowledge of it that thousands of other people have also had if there wasn't something going on, you know. And people describe them as things like archetypes and the collective unconscious, the shadow. But I think these are real, tangible, separate entities from ourselves with different agendas to ourselves, who have different thoughts and feelings from ourselves, who are not a representation of ourselves. I'm very literal with my beliefs on this.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
So there's my Hatman take. You know,
Wow.
there you go.
All right.
Well, it's interesting, like the whole, like, in all of our culture and everything, like, it's kind of a overarching thing. Like Saturn kind of rules the law. You know, you go into a courtroom and it's highly like Saturnine, I guess that you would say. So it's just interesting that you said that about the Hatman, and it's like a very Saturnine kind of thing. He's
a wide-brimmed hat tends to be what he has as well, which is like the rings of Saturn as well.
Yes.
There's a lot about that, and then obviously Saturn worship is a classic occultic thing, isn't it? That's always been around. So there's definitely connections to all of it. Whatever it is, it's not good. The Hatman is not good. I'll tell you what's a side tangent, actually. This is something really interesting about the Hatman. You'll like this. There's a guy called Cryptid Candy on YouTube. And I got him on my channel because I watched his video and I was like, that's amazing. I got him on my channel to break it down. And it turns out there's this massive, weird subculture who all take Benadryl in like extreme high doses.
I've heard of this.
And they see the Hatman and worship him as a god. They go to a place called Ariel, which is like a really hellish, horrible, disgusting place full of shadow spiders and demons, and it's the Hatman's realm. He owns it.
You get the Benadryl. Yeah, you go into the Benadryl nightmare.
Yeah. And he was telling me about this huge rabbit hole about this very dark underground internet subculture of people obsessed with taking Benadryl. And it turns out Benadryl is a deliriant, but it's also extremely corrosive to the brain. So, like, these people are, like, killing themselves to do this, and they're heavily addicted as well. And the trip is always nightmare. It's always a terrible time, but they love doing it. They keep going back for more. Like, it's never a good trip. There's no such thing as a good
It's not
Benadryl
physically addictive, though. That's the whole weird thing about it. But they keep going back like they are addicts. I knew when I was living in California, I knew a guy that lived in my apartment building that did that. It was insane, but yeah, he would steal his Benadryl to he's one of the reasons why Benadryl is locked up. But
it should be. Apparently, it's never good for you. It's never good for you.
No, it's bad. I've only taken it like whenever I had like nasty amounts of insect bites, but like even then, like you get like really crazy dreams.
Yeah,
with the Benadryl, you get the Benadryl dreams, and that's not good. You know. And
according to his research, even just taking it once causes severe damage to you. Like,
great.
I know, I've taken it before, like for allergies, you know, and it's kind of, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, what are they really giving to us here? Like, what is really going on?
They know.
It's over the counter. It's not even over the counter at prescriptions. You can just buy it off the shelf at a supermarket. You know what I mean? It's like harmless. You have it like the kids versions and all sorts of things. It's like, well, according to this guy, it's literally it opens up the realms and portals to the realm of the Hatman. Like it's a demonic portal, you know, and it really makes you think.
Have you heard of this thing about maybe I shouldn't say specifically the name. Was it Demaflu? I wrote a little.
Oh, the Demaflu, yeah, dude. That was
well. That's not the original name. It's like something else, isn't it?
It's called Tamiflu.
That's it.
They call it demon flu, yeah, because it gives you these hallucinations, and it's great, especially with kids.
Especially with kids, yeah.
Terrifying stuff, man. We live in a scary world, and I suppose I haven't made it any better with this clown stuff.
These pharmacia corporations. I mean, these pharmaceutical, you know.
Well, sure. I mean, if you're an occultist or something, if you're like a really Black Lodge kind of occultist or something, what better way than to sacrifice to your Lord of whatever denomination? Than to actually get people to put stuff in their bodies that is consecrated to X entity. Yeah.
Well, exactly. It's exactly what it is.
And make them think that they're helping themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Never trust pharmacia. Not even a little bit.
Nope.
Your great-great-grandmother was right. Dandelion roots.
Well, actually,
And turpentine. Turpentine.
I've just ordered some turpentine. I've just ordered some pure pine.
Oh
gum
yeah,
turpentine.
Hollis is our resident old
Alchemist.
school alchemist slash test subject for basically everything.
I think I've got a serious candida buildup in my joints, in my fingers.
Oh yeah.
Because I had severe arthritis pain like a year ago in my fingers. It was bad. Like I was talking like crippling pain, and I've never had it before in my entire life. And I also have hemochromatosis, so I put it down to that. Iron overload. I did have iron overload at the time. I was like way over healthy limits, organ damage limits. You know what I mean? I'm in maintenance now. I've had the treatment and I'm fine now, you know. But that pain in my fingers, I feel like it was candida. I feel like it was parasites. I think it was just all.
It's always parasites.
Yeah,
It's always, I don't care. Like at the end of the day, it's always parasites, and if it's parasites, it's demons.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a full turpentine protocol when that turns up in like a week or two. I've already done the wormwood, clove, tincture, walnut tincture, you know, black walnut.
Right, the black walnut. Yeah.
Have you been through the borax thing? I know it's actually pretty difficult to get a hold of in Europe. Apparently, sodium tetraborate.
I've not done that one. No. Actually, I've only done the safe one, the walnut tincture mix. You know. And I'm going to do the turpentine next with the sugar cubes. I'm going to try that one.
Right. That's great. Be careful with that turpentine stuff because it can be. You don't want to overdo it. Very less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're going bath time with the turpentine. That's yeah.
Less is always better.
Any tips you can give me in writing, I'll take it and I'll do what I can. But I'm always doing things tentatively. Don't get me wrong. I don't go full guns blazing. I'll probably start with maybe did the 3 sugar cube thing and see how that does. Give it a week or two, maybe try it again, something like that. You know.
Good.
Yeah, you got to be careful getting into all these deworming, deparasitizing, this, that. The next thing you know, you're putting leeches on yourself, and it's like, you know, wait a minute. You're taking now.
You got too much blood in you,
right? You're taking, you're taking the methylene blue and the next thing you know, you look like a Bob Ross. You look like a Bob Ross painting. Like, it's like you're taking massive amounts of B1 and also magnesium. So you're like shitting yourself, but it's blue. And it's like, but all the parasites are gone and you can dream again.
No, I don't go that far personally. I
know. But you can go too far. You can go too far. And then you end up drinking aged urine.
Yeah. I think someone's already tried to push that in my Telegram group once.
We did an episode. Yeah, we just did last week, as a matter of fact, or 2 weeks ago. The episode is literally called "Aged Urine" is a perfectly good show topic.
Well, I made funnily enough on my channel because I don't just talk about the clown thing, but
I know.
I made a video about parasites and the links to demons. And it was a presentation by somebody called Alpha Talks, who I'm friends with online, and he came onto my channel and he gave his presentation showing how there's this massive link in behavior to demons and parasites. They're almost identical.
Oh yeah, it absolutely makes sense.
And he thinks maybe parasites are like an antenna that demons can use to influence people, like to the spirit realm in a way, like wherever there's parasites, there's demons type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like they go hand in hand. And,
they eat heavy metals in the body and stuff. So there is, I think that there is some truth to that.
Yeah. I think there's a natural order place for parasites as a role to play in the ecosystem. But I feel like sometimes it's like they can be controlled by the spirit realm in a way and used for bad as well. And it was a great presentation. It was only like an hour. We did a 3-hour podcast, but I cut the hour presentation out and just uploaded that separately, like 2 months after the fact. And it went viral. It's on like almost 500,000 views, if not more, probably like 700,000 now. And it turns out there's this massive obsession right now with people like cleansing parasites from their body. I must have caught a wave.
It's awesome.
I didn't mean to catch it, but I caught a wave on that one. And yeah, it's everyone's that's a hot topic. Real hot topic suddenly. I didn't even know. It was just by chance. But since then, like I said, I've been dabbling in let's sort my own parasites out then. Let's see what happens, And honestly, people get some serious stories coming out which are wild. Like there's one story of going around like literally it cures being gay.
That was just gonna say. I was just gonna say that
that's a big one.
There are many stories on 4chan.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that, right? But of guys who have done parasite cleanses that were gay and that feel that they're no longer gay. I actually I don't know if I believe it or not, but I want to. Like it makes sense.
That's what I'm saying.
It would make sense for all the absolute perversion that
Right.
homosexuality brings.
And the way that parasites are transmitted.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
all the risky 1,000 gazillion partners in like bathrooms
Through fecal matter.
Yeah, truck stops.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So I mean, it makes sense.
Sounds like demons wanting to experience something.
Yeah,
it's a bit of everything. I think it's a bit of this and a bit of that. I don't know. I think I don't know if I wholesale believe anything I just said. You know,
same. I'm with you. We're right, Paul. We are right there with you. There's also because of the fact that like everything is fake and gay. So like,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can't believe, it's hard to believe anything anymore, but it makes sense. The stuff that we're talking about, I mean, if you think about it logically, it does make sense. I mean, especially in the West, we're the only countries that don't normally deworm ourselves. Like we used to do cod liver oil. Everybody used to take a spoon of cod liver oil once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever it was. But then the cartoons and the little rascals and everybody else demonized it, which is who runs all of that stuff. Is demonized cod liver oil and it's gross and blah, blah, blah. Now we don't do it anymore. We don't. But everywhere else in the world, everybody gets ivermectin. Everybody gets cod liver oil. In the Dominican Republic, if you go there to visit somebody that lives there, you have to get dewormed if you're coming from the United States.
Interesting.
Like so everybody in the world deworms themselves except the West. Kind of weird.
No, that sounds about right to me. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right,
and who's the most gay? Who's the most liberal? Who's the most degenerate? It's the West. And it just stands to reason that that's all because of parasites and demons are all.
Let's bring this back full circle to the clown stuff, because I call that group of people the multicolored collective, because it's a big umbrella and there's a lot of people under that banner. And they're literally a banner. The flag is multicolors, but it's not just that as well. It's not just the pride thing, which, by the way, pride is the ultimate Nephilim trait. That's what they were known for, being the most prideful entities to ever exist. But never mind that. It's just also the ultra left-wing liberal ideology. I mean, the pride thing's just one sect of the multicolored collective. They're not all gay. Some of them are just really, really retarded liberals. You know what I mean? It's like a difference. This is like going out there, but collectively, what do they tend to do to themselves, aesthetically speaking? They dye.
They make themselves into clowns.
They look like clowns. That's right. Yeah. And you have to wonder what spirit is running behind these people, through these people. And is it a case of like they are possessed by demons, therefore manifesting demonic traits like the colourful clownish features? Or is it some people are dressing like clowns to attract the demons? I think it's a bit of this and a bit of that sometimes. I think in the case of the multicolored
collective. Why not both?
Well, I think for the majority of the multicolored collective, it's a spirit within them they don't realise they have, manifesting physically and using the vessel to look more like themselves. I think that's what I'm saying. So they have the compulsion to dye the hair. They have the compulsion to white makeup on the face, or they have the compulsion to tattoo themselves up in multi-wild colours and make the skin more psychedelic. They have these compulsions to do these things because the spirit in them is just running rampant. It's Nephilim stuff. You know what I mean? It
makes sense.
As the Nephilim Death Squad say, it's Nephilim shit. This is what's going on at the end of the day. It's kind of...
Love those guys, by the way.
Yeah, good. The old friends. I knew David before he was even on the Nephilim Death Squad. I was a part of the group chat called Nephilim Death Squad on X before it was even a podcast. But those guys have really nailed it. They've gone far.
Those guys. Yeah. I actually got into an argument with Top Lobster.
He gets in arguments with everybody, that guy.
Well, it started off like he said he did something that was like clickbait type thing, and I called him out on it, and then he was like, "Oh, you should blah 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 blah," something like bend the knee or like like give me show me respect. I was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "And why?" He's like, "Because I do what you do, only better." I was like, dude, this isn't a competition. Like, what's going on? But anyways, we took it to DMs and like started talking, and we got an invite onto the show, onto the Nephilim Death Squad, and like things happened, and I haven't actually got a schedule to go on, but yeah, that was kind of funny. I talk to Raven every now and then on Twitter. Those guys are hilarious. They do all the stuff we do just 10 years later. It's hilarious. They say retard and faggot. They say all the stuff we said, that got us kicked off of YouTube, but now it's okay to say it again.
Yeah, they're allowed to say it.
Dude, it's so funny because, like, right now in the comedy world, like, if you're not racist, you're not a popular comic, right? But I was like, where were you guys 10 years ago when I was getting doxxed and fired for being a racist funny guy? But anyways,
it comes full circle. It swings and roundabouts,
Oh yeah, absolutely. But but like the stuff you're allowed to talk about now and the stuff that's coming out now, like guys like you and I, we were talking about this stuff, 9-10 years ago, and me even further going back. I've been a conspiratard since 2006, 2007. But these new guys, all these new channels that are coming out with a lot of this stuff that it's not rehashed. But it's a lot of stuff that people have been talking about for years. But now it's just, I think COVID had a lot to do with that, where they locked a lot of people up with the internet.
Yeah,
Well, and a lot of people had time to develop these ideas and theories kind of separately, because stuff like, Paul, that you've talked about several years ago when you were first starting, stuff that we've talked about on the show over the years. We have new stuff has come to light over the years. So we're able to kind of cobble everything together into more complete ideas, even if, between different shows or content creators, whatever, they come to a slightly differing opinion.
Yeah.
I think it is great. I love being able to, live right now and have a lot of different content creators that are putting out different versions of the ideas. Because that means more people get to hear about this stuff.
Well,
I always hope
absolutely.
they come to a biblical lens on it, but I'm glad people are able to hear it.
Well, I think the landscape of conspiracy, when I came back in 2023, I was like, what the hell happened? This is not the place I used to be involved with. And all the ones I used to listen to were dead or gone or just don't have a channel anymore. It's like, what on earth happened to this place? And I realized when I came back in 2023, like, where's the Christian truthers? Where have they gone? Like, why is there everyone's a Gnostic all of a sudden, and everyone's like talking about the demiurge or something. I don't know. Things got weird, you know what I mean? Everyone's just like black-pilled, and the manosphere is taking over in some weird ways. Like, where's conspiracy gone, as it used to be, like classic conspiracy stuff, And there was always still the flat earth and Mandela effect just screeching away in the corner, But it's kind of, we need more than that. Like, that's not enough. So when I came back, I made it a point to say, let's start networking properly again and bring Christian conspiracy back in the game. And I think I've done that. And in a way, I think many other people kind of realized there was a vacuum and started to fill it too, which is great. I think we have a really good community now. I think conspiracy is more popular than it ever has been. It's no longer taboo.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think 2020 helped.
You've got people like Candace Owens and other huge names in the normie sphere talking about conspiratorial subjects. You got Candace Owens talking about Macron's wife being a tranny, when Candace Owens is in fact born male. But anyways, that's a whole,
Well, they've got to externalize the hierarchy somehow, haven't they? You know what I mean? They got their own.
Right. She talks about she was on the top 5 anti-Semite of the year. Meanwhile, she's married to a Jewish guy. Anyway,
yeah.
Welcome to conspiracy in 2025.
I think they are externalizing it. I think they are trying to make the public know who's in control now and make them okay with it and passive about it, And I think it's a lot of it's trolling as well and mixed in with like odd.
There's a whole lot of. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's changed.
You've got to go to work. You've got to go to work.
Everyone thinks I'm a shill because of it, because it's like, well, you're allowed to talk about these things now, so you must be one of them. I was like, well, actually, they've always intended to make everybody know. That was the game. They want to externalize themselves and make everyone okay with it. If I'm not only okay with it, how do I join? I mean, that's the point. Like, they want it to be the norm. They want Luciferianism to be the norm. Do what thou wilt to be the whole of the law, which is pretty much what it's become today, And it's and now I'm at the back end of it, like coming back in. I'm like, I guess they won in a way. Like they fulfilled their agendas, So I'm now in the game of pointing out that, look, we're living through it. We're living like post conspiracy now. Like, in a way, the old conspiracy stuff, we kind of did them a favor by talking about it so much. We didn't mean to, but they kind of played us. We got played, we got played. And I guess I'm trying to bring it back to, look, all we can do now is turn to Christ. Because this is what the whole point was. It's kind of, we can't play their games. We need to be a part of a different system, a different kingdom, some might say. And if you walk into the kingdom of Christ, you're not a part of their authority anymore. They have nothing over you. You need to free the mind and the soul from this world, and you're not going to do that if you play their games, their politics, their left-right stuff, or their antagonism, or even talk about their conspiracies even. Because that's kind of what they're aiming for.
Well, then what are we supposed to do, Paul?
I don't know. I don't know, man.
What are guys like us supposed to do? We can't just go away.
No, we can't. We're not going to go away because
I know.
The truth is the truth, and we're fascinated by it,
Yes.
And I think what people miss, this is my main takeaway even from my book, and I think my book is really a gospel trap. I hook them in with the clown because it's interesting, and this generation seems to really like talking about clowns. Something about it gets them. But what I give them is the gospel at the end of the day. That's what you need to get through this world and to understand what's going on around you. And I think we need to make sure conspiracy and truthers realize that that's what it's really all about. This is all about Christ. Like everything. There wouldn't even be a conspiracy if it wasn't for what he did. And that's kind of what they're always trying to detract us from. And they always want to then lead it down some weird Gnostic route. It's like, well, you can become your own god. It's that type of attitude.
I don't know about all that now.
Oh.
Yeah.
A lot of them fall into that. A lot of truthers
fall
into that.
We listen to a lot of guys that went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and they kind of come with their own sort of crazy ideas and their own philosophies, and that's kind of what they're after. They want you to make up your own "I'm a god and this is how reality works" type of worldview, and they've won if they've got you thinking that way. They want you to think it's a matrix and the evil demiurge controls it. They want you to feel like you need to free yourself from this flesh prison by becoming one with some kind of collective conscious or something. They want you to having that attitude, so you de-individualize yourself and kind of become one with the Borg in a way. And it's I'd say no, walk uprightly in the faith, knowing that God made you lovingly and fearfully as an individual with your own personality and place in the kingdom. And I think once you actually walk in that authority, they lose all control over you. And that's all I can really remind people of, and that's all we can do. So if you want an answer, I'd say do that. That's the best thing I've got for you.
There you go.
Sure.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I think there you go. All right.
I like it.
Well, thank you, Paul. We're going to wrap this one up. We usually do 2-hour streams. Tell our Paranormies listeners where they can find you.
Sure. So I'm on YouTube. That's my home base, Understanding Conspiracy. You can find the book, The Nephilim Look Like Clowns, on Amazon. Just type it in. You cannot miss it. The book cover is very obvious. And I have a new channel called Understanding Creativity, which is all about the destruction of the art world and Western values, if you're interested in looking into that as well. I've just started that channel, and it seems to be doing quite well, so we're happy about that. I am on all podcasting formats. I have my own podcast called the Truther Therapy Sessions every Sunday. I've missed it this Sunday for you guys. I would normally be doing that live right now.
Thank you for that.
But I also do a live Q&A every Wednesday as well, which also goes on to the podcasting platforms. I don't just talk about the clown stuff. There is a whole playlist dedicated to that on my channel if you want to get really into the visuals of everything I talk about. The book is just like a summary of all the videos, so it's all for free on YouTube if you want it. If you want to support me, get the book. That's what I would say. I also, like I said, I talk about a lot of topics on Understanding Conspiracy, but the clown stuff is just one of many things I discuss on there, so go check it out.
Well, we had to start you with that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, we're going to have you back again for sure.
Sure. Stay in touch.
Because I was told by your chat that this was a long time coming and way overdue, and to have two conspiracy legends, which I was like, who's the other guy? Me, who Paul and who? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so we're gonna have to have you back for some more of your content. If that's cool.
That's very, very humbling to hear. I don't know about legend. I'm just a guy who doesn't know.
That's what they said. I didn't say it. They said it.
That's
why I was like, who? Me? What?
I'm literally.
Dude, I go to work. I go to work 6 days a week. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what I mean. I'm a guy with a laptop who doesn't know when to shut up. That's basically all I am. Okay, and anyone can do it.
That's all you need to be.
I ask you to do it. Please get involved in the conversation.
Wait, we don't need more podcasts. We don't need any more podcasts. Stop. No, I'm just kidding.
More competition here.
Yes, that's not competition. It's just that everybody. That's the whole thing. Men will do women will go to therapy. Men will start a podcast. So yes,
that hits home. That really hits. But yeah.
It does. But thank you for coming on, Sir Hollis Reinhardt. Thank you for joining me this Sunday afternoon. Now I have some really sad news. I hate to do this, but at the very end of the show, a good friend of ours, Mr. Greg Arcade, is no longer with us. A friend He was a country singer from Canada, member of the Diagolon group, big anti-vaxxer, pro-trucker movement. Lost a battle with cancer, is no longer with us. Great guy, good friend of the show. Actually was on the show once. We lost one of the good ones this week. I'm going to play this one at the end for the end. And this is Bury Me With My Boots On by Greg Arcade. And we will see you guys soon with another episode of The Paranormies. All right. We'll see y'all later.
Time travel makes you gay.